Coming to you live from downtown Detroit, this is Benzinga's PreMarket Prep with your host, Joel Elconin.
This is a volatile puppy here, isn't it?
And Dennis Dick.
I'm bidding a penny. I will buy the stock for a penny.
With everything you need to start your trading day. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Friday edition of Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep. I'm Spencer Israel, joined by Joel Elconin and Dennis Dick. On this show today, the unofficial start of earnings season. Wells Fargo just coming out now. We also had JP Morgan this morning, PNC as well. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the news from Facebook yesterday. They're going to be prioritizing their users over their brands that use the platform. We'll talk about what that means going forward. And our guest today is Russell Rhoads. He is the Director of Program Development for the Options Institute at CBOE. Joel, how's it going this morning in the S&Ps?
In the green again by 4 points at 73.50. Your pre-market high, 76.75. That's your first target on the upside. Your pre-market low, 66.75. That's a couple points below the close, but no downside action until we take out that 66.75. Crude finally having a down day, down 64 cents after visiting the 64 handle. It is currently down 64 cents at 64.16. Let's take a look at the daily chart. Nice rally in crude, hanging out on the two-day low. So there's your support. And gold, surprising people, continuation rally, now new high of the move at $1233.80. Gold's up $10.90. Nice move in the gold market here. Resolve the consolidation to the upside. I'm a little surprised at that. Silver up 22 cents at $17.19. And how's Bitcoin trading this morning? Bitcoin kind of having a rough week, holding in here at 14,000. Hasn't quite taken out that low of the move. Denny, how you doing on this Friday morning? Are we going to give Dennis off on Monday, President's Day?
I need a day off. I need a day off. After today, I need a day off. You want to know why? You don't want to know why? You know, you guys are on my sounding board. I was long Facebook for an overnight trade, and you come in this morning to the bad news, and there's nothing you can do except eat the loss. And that's what I did this morning. I don't put myself into the hope trade. I don't put myself, hoping it's going to come back or let a trade become an investment. It was an overnight hedge trade and just so happened to not be a good hedge because of the horrible news, which Spencer is going to give you now. At least horrible news for me.
Well, horrible news for you. I don't know if it's horrible news for everyone.
Horrible news for shareholders, in my opinion.
All right. Well, so it's kind of a lot to unpack here. I guess I'll just read the headline we have in the pro. They're shifting the focus of the newsfeed, which is of course the main feature of Facebook. They're shifting the focus away from brands and news and onto friends. So according to the Facebook algorithm that determines the order of posts in your newsfeed and which posts are emphasized and put at the top and which posts you have to scroll down to see, posts from your friends are going to appear more closer to the top, and posts from brands are going to appear further down unless those brand posts are driving what they call meaningful engagement. So that's a big shift from what we've seen recently, and there's kind of a lot to unpack here. Basically, they're choosing their users over the brands and all the other non-individuals who use Facebook and news organizations. Every sort of brand who uses Facebook is going to be hit by this in some way. I think what Wall Street is probably latching onto is Mark Zuckerberg's quote that he expects time people spend on Facebook and some measures of engagement will go down. That's a direct quote from him. But I also expect time you do spend on Facebook will be more valuable. That's from his little post on Facebook's newsroom yesterday. So I think that's what people are latching onto this morning. I guess in the short term, this is bad news for brands and anyone who relies on Facebook in any way for monetization, investors. It's good news for the users, though, because I think that's what a lot of people have been complaining about, is that people have been fleeing Facebook in favor of other platforms like Snapchat because they want to just hang out with their friends online, and it's harder to do that on Facebook now with the oversaturation of brands, quite frankly. So I think that's my view on what's happening this morning.
It's something I complained about, and I was way too early on this. Do you remember this on the show? We were talking about this a few years ago on Facebook. It was like 80 or $100, and I was complaining that they were throwing too much news. And I don't go on Facebook, but just the odd time that I go on, I see this advertising to me, and it's like they're throwing this stuff in my face, and I was like, it sounded like short-term gain for long-term pain here because I thought it would turn the users off. Obviously, I was way too early on that call because the stock went up another 80 or 100 points after that. But I think, maybe they're trying to address, that exact thing here now, what, I was complaining about. But I don't know. Like, I think you look at this is a move for the user, yes, not for the advertiser. Yes. And that is not good for the bottom line.
And I think what it is, so even though like Facebook's daily active users and monthly active users, those numbers keep going up. What I suspect, and I don't know this, I'm just guessing, I think that the time spent on the platform is per user is probably going down. If people are anything like me, I'm just using myself as an example here. I'm a daily active user. I go on Facebook every day, several times a day, but I probably spend anywhere from 10 seconds to a minute on the platform. Throughout the day, because there's nothing, I just don't engage with it. I'm on it at this point, it's a habit. I'm on it. I go out of habit, but I don't engage with it in any way, unless something, I have to go out of my way to do that, unless something specifically is driving me there in the first place. So at this point, it's more of a habit for me than anything else, but I'm not engaging with it at all. I'm there. I count as a DAU, right? Because I go on every day, but I'm not engaging. So I think that's what they're trying to stop. People,
it makes sense to a certain extent when you say it that way, the move. The problem is now you look at it, okay, maybe this is long-term gain for short-term pain. So kind of opposite to what I was thinking a couple years ago when I thought there was too much advertising on it, but nobody, now maybe, the user is speaking the bottom line. But you think about this, if they are going to start focusing, not throwing advertisements as much in your face as they have been, then you got to think that's got to hurt the bottom line. It's going to turn advertisers off to a certain extent. And if you look, I don't think it's a coincidence here. I know people are going to cite there was a BTIG bullish note on Twitter here this morning, but I think even without that, I think Twitter is going to trade higher on this. I think Google's going to trade higher on this just because they're competitive, obviously, and they're maybe if people get turned off of Facebook advertising on it, maybe they're going to go over and advertise more on the other social and the other platforms as well, with Google. So and there's also I don't know long term if this is a great move for Facebook shareholders, but we know Mark Zuckerberg is he's all about philanthropy. He's going to give away all of his wealth here when he dies. They got a plan to give away 99% of it, I think, before then. He kind of reminds me a little bit, he's trying to change the world to a certain extent, doesn't care so much about the bottom line. Good if you're a user. I'm just not so sure it's good if you're a shareholder. And that's why they're punishing the stock this morning.
There's actually one thing I thought was very interesting in this post on Facebook in their newsroom about this. There's a section, so what type of page posts will show higher in the newsfeed? And they specifically highlight live videos. They said live videos often lead to discussion among viewers on Facebook. In fact, live videos on average get 6 times as many interactions as regular videos. So they're really, I think, trying to encourage people to be on Facebook Live more and do more live videos. So that could be a good thing, if you can align that with brands. I forget where I read this morning, but someone said, Facebook is all about driving meaningful conversations. Well, how do you monetize a meaningful conversation? Good
luck with that.
That's the challenge right now. But that's where they're at.
Monetize a meaningful conversation by reading the conversation, right, and then throwing advertisements on them for pertaining to that conversation, which is what they already do.
Right. That's where they're at right now, is how to monetize a meaningful conversation. So that's where we are. So we'll see what happens.
Anyways, Facebook shareholders getting punished this morning. Unfortunately, I was one of those short-term day trader holders overnight there. Everybody knows I do a lot of statistical arbitrage, and I do a lot of, index versus components. And I often focus on the main components. Something Joel's even taught me, if you look at the S&Ps, the top 10 components make up 20% of the index. If you put on the top 10 components against the index on any given day, it tracks it pretty well. Except for the days you get major news on one of the components. So then it doesn't track it so well. And those are the days you hope it's in your favor. In this case, it's not. And obviously, I'm down 4% on my Facebook position. I've already sold out of that. And it's a good lesson for everybody listening out there, because a lot of people will have Facebook on as a long, maybe even as a day trade, maybe as an overnight position, maybe as a swing trade. And you come in here and maybe your stop was 185 and it's at 180. You're like, well, what do I do now? My stop was 185. The stock's at 180. I can't sell it down here. I've lost too much money. I've got to come back. And what I say is, nah, you're in the hope trade then. And the hope trade can become very painful. Sometimes these things can continue. I don't know if Facebook bounces back. I don't know. Maybe Joel can talk the technicals on that in a little bit. All I know is when it goes through my level, my out, I sell no matter what. So even if I had my stop at 185, I would be selling it at 180 this morning, which is exactly what I did. So I come in here and I eat my 4% loss and I move on, live to trade another day. It sucks when it happens and you're hit with news, random news, but it happens. Like I'll have 20, 30, 40 overnight trades every day. Every single day I get hit with news the odd time. Sometimes it works in your favor. Sometimes, it's just bonus money. Like you get your stock upgraded, and that's just, it's not that you had skill. It's just that you got lucky. If your stock got upgraded into it, unless you're trying to anticipate upgrades, which is a whole different strategy. But, just out of the blue upgrade or downgrade, sometimes you make, sometimes you don't. It's kind of like a coin flip. So out of the blue news like this, maybe it was, it would be one night that I'm short Facebook and comes out without a blue news and I get some of this back. But I ate the loss this morning. I sold it at 180. So I ate it for almost $8. Sucks.
I think that they're clearing bandwidth to put Benzinga's pre-market prep show on live on Facebook is the rumors. It's the rumors that I'm hearing here. Enough about the philosophical reasons for this being done. We only care about the price action. I know you don't, Dennis. Way to, take the loss and move on here. And your long hedge, or you had a short hedge on. So that's probably not working in your favor either.
Yeah, well, my hedge is no good either. It's because he got a lot of the other stocks trading higher, obviously, on this news.
I like to set up. I like to set up here, though, if you're a Facebook trader, that pre-market low of 178, that's just above a low that you had at 177.55. So that could be a target on the downside if you're looking. But interesting here, since this news came out and since that spike down to 178, you found a buyer here. And for now, that buyer's at 179.50. I see the little blip to 179.02. But it seems like someone's trying to bring something in here in the 179 handle. If you have any of these puts, 86, 85, 84, 83, 82, 81, you thought they're going off worthless. There might be people buying stock in to cover that position and then maybe try and resell it on a pop. If that 178 is taken out, you got a little more downside action here until the 176 handle, 176 and a half, and then just look at your daily. Actually, there's two lows at the 176.40 area. I don't know. To me, I'm going to have to digest this a little bit because I think like this move is something else. There's something, this is really bad news, but I think Mr. Zuckerberg, he's looking forward to something. There's something else going to be connected with this. So
I think, I don't know about that because I think he's just, all about the philanthropy now. He's all about, making the world a better place, making Facebook, the social network, a better place. And if that costs him money on the bottom line, he doesn't really care.
Well, I got one person in the
That's
Google
my
chat.
opinion.
Green Mountain says this is good news for Facebook. Watch it in a month from now. So that's, this is if you feel
I don't know how, so that the funny thing is we know this mentality of the market. So it seems like every time you buy the dip, you're rewarded. It's a huge dip on Facebook here this morning. So I'm not going to fight that tape and say, don't buy this dip because it seems to work every single time. So maybe it works here again. But I'm not going to hold on my position hoping that it just comes back because it violates all my trading rules. So that's why I did sell and take my loss here this morning. But you were right, Joe. If you're just coming in here and entering right now, 180 is a swing number here. 180 has been, you know, you got to think the options are expiring here today. Obviously, your weekly options, and there's going to be on Facebook. And look to your strikes, look to where those levels are. Nick Shaheen always plays that as well. You know, see where the max pain is, see where your 180. You know, what there's a lot of open interest there. That could be a pinning area. But I'll just tell you from the pre-market action, this 180, it has been sticking to this like glue for about an hour here now. We've been a little bit above it, a little bit below it. We had a lot of iceberg orders there at 180. A lot of institutional action has been happening here at 180. So it feels like a little bit of a magnet level here, at least in the pre-market. We'll have to see where it goes out the board. You know, it's going to be a lot of movement here as big institutional players come in. Only trade 2.5 million shares here this morning, which is a lot pre-market for Facebook. You wait, though. Volume's going to get crazy after 9:30.
Yep.
Going to be crazy after
Facebook's pain is Twitter's gain here.
I think so.
Yeah.
I do. And there is a BTIG note, and Twitter, BTIG was are increasing their price target to $30, and they're saying that they think a takeout is likely. And that's, you know, going to be a catalyst to drive the stock up no matter what. But I also think it's helped here this morning because if, you know, you're an advertiser and you're saying, well, you're not going to focus me on, you know, your user there, I'm going to go to something like Twitter. I'm going to go over to Snapchat. I'm going to go to something else where they are going to put my advertisement in their face. So that's a consideration here. I think Facebook's loss is a little bit Twitter's gain here.
As it is, and it's being evidenced here in the pre-market, up 85 cents at 25.20. Almost 500,000 shares have traded. I wish I would have held on to those 24 and a halfs a little bit longer. But
what's Snap doing?
Snap,
it's down. It got downgraded though.
Oh man, can't catch a break. Those guys cannot catch a break.
Yeah, downgrade at Raymond James, so that's going to weigh on it. I think it'd be hard to say. I mean, you know, maybe there's a hole in my thesis because Google's not up that much here this morning, and it has no news on it. Twitter's up substantially. We don't know how much of that. Twitter, the two catalysts potentially. One, the BTIG note definitely is a catalyst, but you know, the Facebook news could be too. Snap being downgraded today, it's hard to fight a downgrade. I mean, that's just, you know, blatantly bad news for the stock, and people go with the easy call, and the easy call is to sell it when you see a downgrade.
All right, we got a high of 25.33 in the pre-market in Twitter. High of the move, 25.56, waking up after a long consolidation here. Trading range is broken out, maybe come back down under 25. You'll find some support. Looking at Snapchat, that stock has just been a laggard. You got support at the $14 area. You did sneak under it 3 days ago, but, you know, came over 16, finding support at 14 here. So let's see how it's doing in the pre-market trading. 14.30 got a dip. I don't know. It just seems like there's buyers ganging up at 14. All right. Who would think that 20 minutes into the session that we wouldn't have talked about bank earnings?
I know, it's funny, eh? You get this other stuff, and the bank earnings here this morning are wild. So you've got Wells Fargo and JP Morgan. It's kind of a repeat of last. You know, we talked about this. You know, you brought it up the point yesterday, saying, you know, last time their earnings were pretty good and they hit the banks on it. I was like, I don't know if that happens this time. It is happening, at least this morning. These earnings were not bad from JP Morgan and Wells, but they are finding a reason to take profits.
Got the numbers there, Mr. Spencer?
Let's do Wells Fargo first, since it just came out at 8 o'clock. Wells Fargo Q4 EPS $1.16 versus $1.06, so a 10-cent beat on the EPS. Sales of $22.05 billion versus $22.34, so a slight miss on the sales number. So a mixed report from Wells Fargo on the Q4 numbers. And then you want JP, or do the chart first, and then I'll give you the JP Morgan numbers.
Let's take a look. You got a spike up to 64.10. That took out the all-time high. The all-time high was made yesterday at 63.67. Stopped on a whole number.
That was actually on the JP Morgan initial spike as well. So that was before the Wells numbers were out.
Yeah, okay, you're right, because that just came out in the last bracket. We're getting pounded here. Pre-market low is 61.75. You do have a series of lows at 61.91. I see two lows in that area. Crucial to get back above that to try and get into yesterday's range at 62.69. If not, you could be seeing the lower 61 handle. 61.10 was your January 3rd low. JP Morgan traded up to 112 here. Someone got a little bit excited. took it up. Let's go JPM for you traders at home. Went to 112.05. That took out the all-time high. Trying to find a buyer at 109.50. That's your pre-market low. We've hit that in 2 separate brackets. Let's see what we can find. I see a low at 109.39. That's your 2-day low, but watch out after that. Drops off to 108.49. Spencer, you got the numbers?
Yeah, they beat on the EPS and on sales. EPS $1.76 versus $1.69. Sales $25.5 billion versus $25.2 billion. Jamie Dimon said that they had healthy growth in treasury services, security services, and investment banking.
Numbers not that bad. Spinner making a point. Let's look where they were a month ago. And they have run up. We talked about this. They didn't run up as much as they did last time, but they did run up in the earnings. So Wells Fargo, December, month and a half, 56 to 63. This is a point you made yesterday. I kind of balked at it because I said everything had run up, Joel, but I guess your point is taken here. Just over a month and a half ago, JP Morgan was down 96 up to 110. They are big moves for the banks. So again, we're seeing a repeat of last quarter where they're taking profits on, whatever reason they can.
All right, so we'll take a look. Those are our earnings. Also, Punk. You want to cover Punk? Not a heavily traded stock, but they have their numbers.
What do you cover?
Yeah, PNC.
Oh, yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
I don't know why. Why do you call them Punk?
PNC. He calls it Punk.
I don't know why. Okay, 220.
Joel's got his nicknames for everything. It's from the trading floor.
All right, 229 versus 220 on the Q4 adjusted EPS, so 9-cent beat there. Sales of 4.26 versus $4.18 billion. So beat on the sales and a beat on the EPS for PNC.
Same story. Stock run up too much into it. And this had a significant run up the last 3 days from 145 to 151.5. Not good enough. When you run up into the earnings, you got to blow it away. Didn't blow it away. Equals stock trading lower here in the pre-market. Again, hard to sell these things in the whole, though, because we know how this market is so resilient. And I think as you pull back, there just seems to always be underneath demand and everything in this market as money managers scramble to find stuff to buy because they have too much cash on the sidelines.
Holding 150 as we speak, 150.06. Keep an eye on 149.84. I think that could be the level for the day because after that, you got nearly a $2 drop to the 2-day low of 148 even. Coming back on the upside. Old-time closing high from yesterday, 151.49. That was also your closing print of the day. So some traders leaning the wrong way. So I expect to see resistance ahead of that. Maybe a nice round number like 151. But all-time closing high from yesterday, 151.49.
You come into a day like this and you see the banks getting the beats here this morning on decent earnings. You see Facebook down significantly here in the pre-market. You think it is going to be a bloodbath day. And then you look at the resilient S&Ps, and they are up again. There's just always something else picking up the slack. And you know what it is? Everything else is picking up the slack. Because when I look at my board, and I have the majority of the major S&P components just sitting on my screen, a couple hundred of them, I see green everywhere. It's crazy. You think, so we just highlighted, and you think of the first 20 minutes, man, it's going to be an ugly day for the markets. But banks are down, and Facebook is down, and there's some oil stocks down. But the majority of everything else is trading higher. Caterpillar, which has been on an incredible run, looks like it's going to take out 170 here today. It's trading above it in the pre-market. You can look at, stocks even like Walmart. Some of the drugs are up. Deere is up here again. I'm just looking at everything. Everything is slightly green. Even the other tech stocks. You would think maybe Facebook, is going to be a drag for the techs. Not the case at all. FANG, if you're trading FANG, Facebook is just on its own because Amazon trading higher here this morning. Netflix up substantially here this morning, up $1.40. Google, we already said Google kind of gets a little bit of benefit from maybe this, as maybe some advertisers say, I'm not going to go on Facebook. I'm going to go back over to Google. And then, you look at Apple, it's trading up. Microsoft is trading up. Every tech stock is pretty much trading higher except for Facebook. And AMD. AMD had some bad news last night too.
All right.
Which we should mention.
Okay. Do you want to mention that AMD news trading down here 45 cents at 11.69?
Yeah. After they got done saying that they were 99% sure that they weren't going to be affected by all this Intel, this chip stuff, they came out and it sounds like they're affected.
Whoops. Yeah. Although actually, I think those comments, and we were talking about this in depth on the news desk last night. Those comments that the CEO made yesterday, those weren't new comments. She had said those earlier this week on CNBC. So,
and I'm still trying to figure out whether Lisa Sue is the clerk. I had a clerk on the floor back in the 80s. Her name was Lisa Sue. Do you think it's the same one?
Probably not. No.
I gotta find out, man. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to check it out.
Probably not.
But we're going on a weird tangent here.
No. Anyway, my point is,
Joel taking us off.
My point is, she had said on January 9th that the fall would impact its chips. She said that January 9th. So the whatever news yesterday, whatever she said yesterday was not new information. That had been out there.
Trading down in the pre-market, 43 cents, 1.2 million shares have traded. Nice run up a little over a week ago. You get in a gappy area here, and you got a gap to fill between 11.36 and 11.02. So got some work to do here on the downside. You had a big sprint up after sellers ganged up at the 12.50 area. But looking at your pre-market low in AMD, just like 1170, or actually that was after hours here. So got some room on the downside here in AMD. Dennis, you mentioned a couple that, maybe the drug sector will pick it up. I just, for Green Mountain here, I just want to take a look at Gilead Sciences, and it looks like it wants to take out 80. I don't think I'd be
been on a run.
Yeah, it really has, but
real run. Like it broke out through 75 and has not looked back.
I think you really got to focus on $80 for, at least the next week or so. Yesterday's high, 79.68, but you got a couple pesky highs in the 80 handle, 80.80 and 80.38. So get above and close 80. I think you got another leg up. It looks like it's just going to be a little bit of a consolidation here after that big run for 3 days ago. So the best you go for, a little bit of consolidation, a close above 80, and then a continuation move. He's also asking about Amgen, AMGM. That's been one of the biotechs. It's held up pretty well as far as its all-time high goes, winding into a little bit of a wedge on the daily here. So draw your trend lines and see which way it breaks out of the wedge. Dennis, any thoughts on Amgen or GILD?
GILD, I just said it's been off the races since 75. I would say $80 though. If you're coming up to that big hole number, it got up there slightly to it yesterday, 79.68. Watch the 80 because 80 was support for this for a while back in October, and then it finally breached it. If you subscribe to the theory, old support becomes new resistance. You would be selling the 80 level in GILD. Amgen, haven't looked at that one in a while, so let's go check it out. Been on a pretty good run here really since November, back from 170 185. I mean, you think about how a lot of these biotech stocks have had the beats. Amgen is only $10 off its all-time high, so $9 off its all-time high now because it's trading up a little bit here in the pre-market again. I mean, it's been resilient, and you call it best of breed, one of the best of breed out there. You get a little dividend with it too. It's 2.89%, which is somewhat significant there. Value play as well. So Amgen looking good, except, coming back into that resistance area whenever you get into the higher 180s.
Yeah, 184. That was your 184.53. That was your 3-day high. And then go back a little bit farther and you see a high, a similar high in the 184 handle at 184.82. So 184 and a half, 185. That's your major resistance. You need to close above that area for another leg up. Dennis, 8:30 and 24 seconds. Another GE imbalance for you.
Yeah, it's there. It's smaller today, but it's there. It's one thing I'm making money on here this morning. My GE is working out for me a little bit here this morning anyways. It's 553,000 to buy. I'm long GE overnight. I've been long GE overnight every night now since, not talking the investment portfolio and the trading portfolio. I've also had it too for about a week, about 6-7 days straight. It's made money for me every day where I've been buying the close and selling the pre-market or the open, and it's been working. I'm continuing to do it until it doesn't work anymore. But GE, it's a little smaller in balance than it was yesterday. Yesterday was up to over 2 million. It's got 553,000 to buy, so it's somewhat significant here. Other imbalances note: Alibaba, 89,000 to buy. Twitter, small buy balance, only 21,000 to buy, but that's probably going to grow because Twitter's trading up substantially in the pre-market there. Ford, 111,000 to sell. Caterpillar, 199,000 to buy here in the CAT. So CAT hot here again this morning. CAT trading up in the pre-market as well. Verizon, 50,000 to sell. I don't see that much else really. let's go to Snap. I'm just going to look at the Snap imbalance because it's got the downgrade. Oh, only 2,900, so it's small too.
All right, we got 3.5 minutes before we bring on our first guest from Russell Rhoads from the CBOE. He's going to be talking about the low VIX, and he's also going to be talking about the Bitcoin futures that have been trading over at the CBOE. S&P starting to leak here a little bit, only up 3.25 now. Keeping an eye at mid-range on the session. Mid-range comes in at, let me look on my other platform here. Mid-range comes in at 71.75, $1.50 away. You still want to see that hold up here going into the opening balances. Really didn't seem to affect it that much. All right, Dennis, any ratings today? I think, I know
there's a lot.
Oh, here comes a rant.
There's a lot of ratings.
Here comes
Spencer, give us some highlights.
Okay, there's a. I don't even. It seems like every stock in my screener today is up or down because of a ratings change. I guess we'll start with the one that jumped out to me the most, which is Dix. Dix catching an upgrade this morning at Deutsche Bank from hold to buy. Dix is up 3% last I checked. So that was
DKS.
You want me to keep going, or you want to?
Yeah, give us like the 5-6.
All right. Dix upgrade Deutsche Bank. Coles upgrade at RBC. I think Coles caught another upgrade. Is that true, Dennis? Or just
the double upgrade here this morning, getting it from JP Morgan and RBC. Okay. We're gonna have a rant on them in a minute.
Okay. What else do we have? eBay upgraded. SunTrust, Humana and Anthem both upgrade at Jefferies. Etsy caught a downgrade from Morgan Stanley. Let's down this morning. Snap downgrade we mentioned at Ray J, and that's what I got as far as the biggest ones. What do you got,
Joel? Where do you want to go first? I'm gonna let the technician here go.
He just gave me so many here.
Let's go to Coles. I'm gonna lead you.
Okay.
Go to Coles because first analyst rant here of the day. Stock has been trading between $40 and $50 for, let's go to the monthlies here. For the last I guess we had the little run at the end of 2016. For the last year, 2017, the stock's been under $45. Now you get the double upgrade after it's run from 40 to 60 in the last month and a half. Now you're upgrading the stock. Late to the party, JP Morgan, late to the party, RBC. Where were you a month ago when this stock was trading down in the 50s? And where were you 2 months ago when it was up 30? Well, 2 months ago, the stock was $37. I feel like that's so late to the party.
All right. And big move here, up to 28. Pre-market high 63.49. Not really backing off yet here. So that's an important thing to note, that 63.49 is your high and your last print is 63.40. You got to go out a little bit longer term here. And you could just see that this stock has not been in this area in quite some time. I mean, dare I say $65 as your major resistance today, 65.20. That was your high going back to July of 2015. The previous month's high was 64.10. So if you think this thing is just going to continue going higher, keep an eye on those two levels, 64.10, 65.20. If you're looking for a gap fill, well, you better put a bid in at 61.20 and hope they take it down $2. 61.16 was yesterday's high with a close of 61.12.
All right, 8:35, time for a quick break where we grab Russell Rhoads from CBOE. We'll be right back. And welcome back, everyone, to Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep. Spencer Israel, Joel Elconin, Dennis Stick, and we're on now with Russell Rhoads. He's the Director of Program Development for the Options Institute at CBOE. Russell, how's it going today?
Everything's going very well. I working from home, so I don't have to brave any of this weather.
Well, wait, what kind of weather are you getting? Because what you get today, we're going to get tomorrow.
and keep in mind I grew up in the South, but it's around 20, that's cold.
Oh boy. All right. Going to be great.
So
great,
I'll send it to you tomorrow.
Great long weekend. Lovely. Looking forward to it. All right, Russell, it's been a while since we had you on the show, and you do a lot of reading and writing and thinking about the VIX. Why don't you break that down for us, where we're at right now and where you think we're headed?
Well, where we're at, I think everybody's aware. I was speaking to one of my counterparts yesterday, and we basically came up with about 20 different ways that you can say VIX is low and why it's low. And everybody knows that VIX, put up as many single-digit days last year as it had since we've been keeping up with VIX since 1990. But the part that people don't really spend as much time talking about is what kind of realized volatility we got out of the S&P 500. And I think the realized volatility in the S&P 500 was the lowest since the mid-60s. So VIX at these low levels, it doesn't mean it's not worth looking at anymore. It doesn't mean it's broken. It just means it's reflecting what's going on in the overall markets. Now, we broke an average low for VIX, average closing low for VIX in 2017 record. The previous record was 1995, but within about a little bit over a year after 95, we topped 20, and VIX averaged above 20 for 3 or 4 years. So it's low, but I wouldn't be surprised if this time next year we're talking and VIX has a crooked number in front of it, because we do go through different regimes, and we're toward the end of one right now, I think.
Russell, Dennis Dick here, and I got a couple thoughts here on the VIX as well, and I just want to get your thoughts on this. How much does this have to do? First of all, we know when volatility is low, obviously, people are, getting a little more aggressive maybe with the pricing. But what about the market maker aspect of it? Because I've been, I'm Joel's market maker, and I've played market making role at Bright Trading for 19 years. I can tell you, our traders get way more aggressive when the VIX is low, because you have to be, and they increase your size, if you're seeing less volatility. So what that does to a certain extent is it thickens the market up. As you get market makers who are more aggressive and more aggressive, it thickens it up. And high frequency trading has a lot to do with that too. I mean, it's ultra competitive there now. So if you aren't getting it on the volatility, you got to do it on size. As the order books get thicker, and as market makers get more aggressive with the pricing, liquidity increases, and that dampens moves. How much do you think that has to do with, the ultra competitive environment of high frequency trading and market making on the VIX?
Specifically to VIX, because spot VIX is just really reflecting what's going on in the SPX option area. I think some of that is present. I think that the increased volumes in the SPX and the increased attractiveness of the short vol trade, not just with market makers, but with market participants across the board, has put a little bit of pressure on VIX. But the other side of that is when we get the volatility event, and you have people that have not lived through one, people who think that shorting VIX works all the time. Those types of folks are going to be running for the exits very quickly. So the longer we go in this low volatility environment, the more accentuated the spike to the upside might be.
Russell, also, just continuing on that theme here, and I completely agree with you. I think, what we're going to see is, explosion, these little times where, all of a sudden there's risk on there, and everybody's, had the risk, on trade forever, and they got to get the hell out as quickly as they can. I think, that, you are going to see, these little intermediate explosions in the price of VIX, which are, to be expected, I guess, when it's just super low, because everybody's getting more aggressive there. How do you what do you do if you're a trader there? How do you protect yourself, in the event that this all of a sudden, are there, products that, CBOE offers, that, you would say, could protect yourself in the event that, the market starts to.
Well, my big fear among, traders that are relatively new to all this, that haven't experienced what VIX can do, or what volatility can do is that maybe they've been, let's just say you've been consistently selling put spreads and call spreads and doing fairly well with that in the low vol environment. And you start to question, well, why in the world am I, why am I buying that farther out of the money option when I'm selling a near at the money put or call option when I'm not needing that? And people get, when you were talking about being more aggressive, I was also visualizing, the retail trader that is like, I've wasted all this money on this protection. Why don't I just be pure short vol? And, I hope that I think you mentioned products. I hope that we do a good enough job keeping people aware of what can happen through the education at CBOE, that they don't put on what would be considered a foolish trade that blows them up when we do get that volatility event.
Russ, I wanted to shift the conversation over to the other thing that's been on your radar recently, besides the VIX, which you always have on your radar, is Bitcoin futures. You, of course, work at the CBOE. CBOE has Bitcoin futures. What can you tell us about how that's been going?
It's been going pretty well. We launched yesterday was the 1 month anniversary of Bitcoin futures. We launched on December 11th. You never really know how a new derivative product is going to work out. I mean, we did know that there was going to be some interest, and goodness knows everybody. You can't be in our business and not be asked about Bitcoin. So everybody's paying attention to it. We're doing between 5,000 and 10,000 contracts a day, which for something that's fairly new would be considered a success. I know relative to the full Bitcoin ecosystem, it's a drop in the bucket, but it does continue to grow. We've got, you can tell how many unique entities are involved in a market by looking at the COT report. And last week's COT report, we had 39 different firms that reach a reportable level that were involved in Bitcoin futures. So I think that's pretty encouraging as well. Our contract size is actually 1 Bitcoin to 1 futures contract, which differentiates us from the CME group where theirs is 5 to 1. Now, when both groups started working on these things, Bitcoin was around $4,000 or $5,000. And we were getting pushback where people were saying the contract was going to be too small. Now that it's up around 14,000, it seems to have been the right choice to go to the 1-to-1 relationship. And I think that's what's been helping us volume-wise.
And so what kind of feedback or I guess what are the biggest questions that you've been getting from people, from traders or from anyone who reaches out to you guys who wants to trade Bitcoin futures, but they don't really know maybe what's the biggest question you've gotten from them?
It's really funny. And I didn't really expect this. I probably should have, but I didn't really expect it. If you go buy Bitcoin, you open an account at Coinbase or something like that, and you just trade right through their website. We have gotten tons of questions as to how do I open an account on CBOE's website to trade the Bitcoin futures? Because the people, you know what I mean? The people that are coming into this market
they're not used to the whole brokerage aspect.
Exactly. Right? And we're actually spending time explaining how futures markets work. So that actually is the most common question that we've been getting about Bitcoin is how do I trade it on your website?
So that's interesting.
And then
that's interesting because
it really is, and I think all three of you guys, because you're from the traditional market side of things, you wouldn't have expected that, but we probably should have. Also, the night that we launched, our website got a little overwhelmed, to say the least. We did more. We did like within 5 minutes, we did the amount of traffic that we're used to doing in a week on our website, and that, I think that's because, again, the people that are traditional crypto traders thought that they were supposed to go to our website to try and trade it.
That's really interesting to me, because I think one of the biggest questions that I had when all this was happening last month was, so you have two very distinct groups of people who are now in the same game, right? Because before you had the people trading Bitcoin 2-3 years ago, were technology, enthusiasts, and not people who had no familiarity at all with the inner workings of how things on Wall Street work. And now you're throwing in this other population who may even not understand how Bitcoin works at all, but they know how the futures market works and they want to trade it. So you have two very different groups of people who, with two very different backgrounds, now all of a sudden in the same game. And I was sort of wondering, how would that play out? Would you get a lot of would the people trading Bitcoin futures through you guys and through the CME, would that be the Wall Street crowd, or would that be the Bitcoin crowd, the technology enthusiast crowd who has no idea what a futures market is? And you're saying that yes, that is what happened. That a lot of these people who are already in Bitcoin just moved over to trading Bitcoin futures.
Yeah, we got a lot of interest from those people. They didn't understand what they were supposed to do. Which I find pretty funny. In the price action with the futures, initially you could, even with 100% margin, you could lock in like a 6% profit by shorting the January future and buying spot Bitcoin. And I think as people on our side, on the listed market side of things, have become aware of that, the curve is flattened tremendously. Now, I think that trade was taken advantage of very quickly and changed the dynamics of the futures pricing relative to spot. And we go into backwardation, but the funny thing about backwardation is it tends to happen when Bitcoin sells off. The futures overshoot to the downside, which, I don't know if that's panic selling or what, but like when we were talking about VIX first, we go into backwardation typically with a VIX spike. The backwardation, the 2 or 3 times that we've closed in backwardation for Bitcoin so far have been associated with days where it sold off.
Russell, just let me ask you real quick. I mean, you've been in the markets for a long time. You've seen a lot of different, fads and crazes or whatever. The CBOE, Merck have stepped out in this product. SEC is kind of dragging their feet on some of the ETFs. I see the GBTC is split in 9 for 1. I mean, 5 years from now, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. I mean, do you think that this is, are going to be, viable products, or do you think it's just something that's just kind of going to fade away?
I think that there's going to be I think the best analogy that we can come up with, and you see this one thrown out there a lot, is the internet, where there were a whole lot of companies that went public, and there were half a dozen or so that actually survived for the long term. And I think what a lot of people are trying to do is they're trying to look at the technology behind the different cryptocurrencies and trying to figure out which ones are going to be the long-term survivors. And our long-term is probably 2 years in this market. So, and I think the big question with respect to Bitcoin, and the technology is great. The ones that seem to be the up-and-comers are the ones that are taking the idea behind Bitcoin and refining it one way or another. You got to wonder if maybe Bitcoin's going to be like MySpace, and what you're trying to find is the Facebook, which is going to be the one that actually ends up being the long-term winner. It's very possible that Bitcoin ends up being the long-term dominant one, but it'll be interesting to watch as it plays out.
All right. Russell Rhoads has been our guest. He is the Director of Program Development for the Options Institute at CBOE. Russell, great insight on the VIX and Bitcoin futures. Thanks so much for joining us. We will not wait so long to get you on again in the future. Thanks. So have a good one.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good long weekend.
You too.
S&P futures took a little tumble here during that interview with Mr. Rhoads. Treasury yield tops 2%. retail sales. I think we had some retail sales out that weren't so great, but we took a nice hit in the S&P. Dennis, you were just talking like, oh, well, you know, the banks are down, Facebook's down.
Yeah, we were resilient.
We're resilient, and then kaplooey, but went down to 66.75. What's interesting is that was the pre-market low until then. So you had a 9-point drop and you stopped at 66.75, adding more significance to that level as we move forward in the session. All right, we got about 8 minutes here. Dennis, do we need to discuss some other setups here?
Let's just jump over here to a few other stocks that were on my list from last night. And those ones here, just looking back to upgrades and downgrades because we didn't get to them all. I wanted to talk eBay, which was upgraded SunTrust here this morning. That's given back a lot of the gains here too. Always interesting, you know, when you see an upgraded stock, which was trading up substantially earlier, coming back down now almost, it's up 0.5%, I guess. Still, it's up 20 cents. But eBay's had a rough couple of days.
Yeah.
So you got to call out the blue here. SunTrust balking it, saying buy the dip. $38 where it's trading at this morning. What are your thoughts here on this call on an upgrade from SunTrust?
Pretty quick 2.5-point drop. So you do have some overhead supply. So 38.75 would be, you know, a retracement if you did get back up in that area. I don't even think we got there in the pre-market. We did. We got over 38.40. So a little pop there, but man, it's going to be tough. What I'm looking at here more as trying to find resistance is support here. And I know it was an upgrade, but look at that low from yesterday at 37.46, your 2-day low 37.55. And then I got 4 other lows at that area back, 6 other lows, 7 lows back in mid-December. So you're holding 37.50 here. I like it to the upside, but I'm just afraid, you know, some people that bought this on the breakout over 40 are going to use this upgrade to exit the issue.
Boring stock, but getting an upgrade this morning is Coke. They're getting upgraded
Coca-Cola.
at Evercore. Yeah, the stock's trading up 23 cents here in the pre-market. I mean, this stock has been going nowhere fast for the better part of 3 months. I do trade it every once in a while, but it's a stuck between 45.50 and 46.50. Reason I mention it here today, when you get an upgrade, sometimes these things get a little bit overzealous. If this thing can get anywhere near that 46.5 level, I think you're going to run at all kinds of size up there. I'm just looking at the book. 46.50, 260,000 shares for sale there, but you're going to have a struggle even to get there because 46.49, 27,000 shares, 46.40, 30,000 shares, 46.30, 30,000 shares. There's, you know, littered size all through the book, but if it does get overexcited there, and I don't know what the pre-market high is, all kinds of resistance at 46.50. So it could be a setup.
Yeah, and you actually have other highs to contend with in that area. You got up to 46.35. That's 1 penny shy of Tuesday's high at 46.36. Couple sellers the last 2 days at 23 and 26. So, you know, and the SPOO's trading in the red too here, opening into resistance. It's going to take a lot to get it even up to that 46.50 number where Dennis identified the size.
Chat wanted to have some comments. DC was asking us earlier about Comcast, CMCSA. I haven't looked at it for a while. Let's go check it out. CMCSA. Hell of a day yesterday. I'm not sure what the news on was yesterday. I missed that somehow because it had a really nice move. I mean, everything was moving up. Then maybe it was just a beneficiary of breaking out through that 41 resistance. But 42.60 is where we closed. If you like the 2-day move, if you subscribe to the 2-day move, that would mean Comcast could get some love here again today.
Dennis, do you want to guess where the news was? Just take a wild guess. just guess.
You only get one guess.
You only get one guess.
We're going to kick you off the show.
I goldfish memory. I can't even remember what I ate yesterday or did anything yesterday as opposed to what the hell Comcast news. This is yesterday's news.
Okay, I'm going to read it to you.
What was it?
Comcast, this is a headline from TechCrunch. Comcast Ventures is betting on blockchain technologies in 2018.
No!
You got
Come on. Was it a blockchain headline for Comcast yesterday? Give me a break. Anyways, whatever. You know, we know that moves stocks, but it's moving the big stocks now too. Why am I IBM? You know, I keep arguing my IBM, you know, that's my blockchain play. I guess, you know, it's moved up since I bought it, but when are they going to start, you know, getting some love for their blockchain stuff? They're a real blockchain play.
Okay. You hit an all-time high, 42.67 yesterday. Peeling back a little bit. Now let's look at the pre-market trading in Comcast, CMCSA. traded down a little bit. So you want to see it get green on the session. That would take 42.60. Your all-time high made yesterday at 42.67. So if you do mount a rally, look for sellers in that area. And from yesterday, the old Wednesday's high, Thursday's low trick. Wednesday's high, 41.17. Thursday's low, 41.14. Buffeted by your close on Wednesday at 41.09. So there's your support. If it falls a little bit more than $1.
Facebook update here. Glad I sold my shares, my overnight shares at 180 because it's now 178.49. So the pain train does continue for FB here. Joel, quick, give us some levels here again on Facebook because this is your disaster stock of the day.
Though they took out that buyer I thought I saw at the 179.50 area. It looked very well poised to test that pre-market low of 178 even. You have only a couple other lows to contend with. 77.55 could be a potential stopping point, but then you fall down all the way to 76.46, and that was your low on December 29th. But this is just another thing. Like I'm giving you some resistance levels, but I mean, just look at this monthly chart. I mean, there's a lot of people sitting on a lot of profits, and there might be orders sitting out there on institutional desks. Sell me 5 million down to 170. I mean, there could be orders out there like, this is it. I'm out. I'm done. They're getting off the advertising train. So be careful if you're trying to pick bottoms in this one, because it's just had a tremendous run over the years. And, even if you had bought this thing like in October at 150, you're still sitting on some money. So this could be your disaster of the day. Over 4 million shares have traded. How many shares traded yesterday in Facebook? Yesterday, 10 million shares have traded. So
that's going to blow it away. Yeah. You're going to see like 40 million trade today
big
for
day.
Fun.
Big day here in Facebook. And that's probably adding to some of the red here in the market, 178.46. I mean, if the pre-market low was one thing, so, keep an eye on that, but could be a real stomping here in Facebook today.
I tell you, Samir in our chat is giving us a setup. This is a nice looking chart. GoDaddy, GDDY. It's a stock that I actually have on my list. Just that I like this long term as well. And it's a little bit expensive from a valuation perspective, but if you want something that looks like it's gearing up to go, GDDY is banging its head up here against the wall. Just look at this setup, Joel. Yeah. This looks nice. 51.50. Get above there, man. This thing could break out. This looks like it's ready to go.
Yeah, nothing but.
I like it. I like the setup.
Holding out here in the pre-market, 51.30 was your close. That was your all-time closing high. Besides the recent highs in this area, you had a trio of highs from 51.18 to 51.29 back at the end of November. So, I mean, I guess the only thing is, you got to be, if you're going to be trading that stock like this today, ignore the market, get the breakout. But, if you get the breakout, and this thing, starts to pull back, you kind of want to pay it close to the vest. You don't want to give it all the way down to yesterday. What was yesterday's low here in GoDaddy? 50.98. So keep an eye on the close. Still green. Kind of a thin one. Only traded 572,000 yesterday. All right, 9 a.m. right on the nose here. Spencer, you want to recap today's show?
Well, quick announcement to our listeners who want a little bit more of Joel this morning. If you're not quite sick of Joel yet, if you tune into the TD Ameritrade Network, I guess it's tdanetwork.com, or if you use Thinkorswim, you can get on there. Joel will be on their show at 9:45. So Joel will be espousing his knowledge and wisdom on the TD Ameritrade Network at 9:45 Eastern time this morning. So 45 minutes from now, and you can check that out, the TDA Network, to get more of Joel this morning and see his beautiful face. He even dressed up for us this morning. How nice of him. But anyway, that is our show for us today. If you want to catch the podcast, you can do so on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or YouTube. And that's that. Thank you to our guest, Russell Rhoads. Thanks to all those of you who joined us in our chat at premarket.benzinga.com or in our YouTube chat as well. Hope you all have a good, nice, long weekend. We will not be here on Monday, so we'll be back with you folks on Tuesday with Nick Shaheen. Have a good weekend. Good luck out there.